outside that door right there.
3-8 game, is it?
3
Oh, I don't. Mrs. Jordan, we haven't had a chance to have you on TV too much, but it's good to have you here. And I want to ask you how you feel about Coach Jordan's retirement. What kind of plans do you have for him now?
Well, Carl, you know I don't really have any plans for Coach Jordan, and I have, maybe I've put off thinking about his retirement because I feel like Suge is going to do like most people who retire. He's going through a transition period from being very, very busy to getting himself involved in something else, because I can't imagine him not being committed and involved in something. And I feel like he has not had time, being so busy with his job, to develop any hobbies. He has tried to be involved in hunting and fishing, and we have enjoyed golf at times, but then along would come a very busy football season, and he'd have to leave us alone for 6 months or 8 months or 9, and you don't do very much with a hobby that you put down and have to pick up later.
When you married way back when he was going into coaching, did you?
Well,
What did you think of the coaching career?
Well, Suge, you know, was a football coach when he and I were married. In fact, he was basketball and football. At that time, you worked in all areas of athletics. And I remember I was in graduate school at Tulane at that time, but it did not, I've gotten career-oriented, but at that time I was not particularly career-oriented, and it didn't occur to me that I would continue my own career after we were married. And why, I don't know. We certainly could have used some money, you know. But it was just not the thing that people did in those days. You didn't have as many two-career families as we have today. And Suge and I talked so many times about our future and the goals we had, and he was history-oriented and really, I think, would have seriously considered law for himself. But it just didn't work out that way. After we were at Auburn a short while, really, we were here 5 years he was an assistant coach, and then along came the war, World War II, to disrupt everybody's, really, plans. And I think for this reason, he went back into coaching after he got out of the military, and things just sort of developed along those lines instead of maybe if we had been in coaching without an interruption of the war, he would have gotten out of coaching and maybe gone into law. That was his real interest.
What have been some of the high points of the past 25 years? You've been with him during these highlights of his career. What do you think have been his best moments?
Well, I think about it now, and I, you know how things just, I guess, psychologists, again, you have a selective sort of memory, but I always remember one of the assistant coaches' wives and myself, and they had been with us at Georgia. It was a Hobbs, and he's been gone a long time from Auburn. But she and I were out at the beginning spring training, and she was football-minded, and of course I am too. I really enjoy football and feel like from being a football fan in college, and I have learned more than I really know about football, and I can sort of tell if the team looks bad, you know. And watching that spring training, I remember Mrs. Hobbs and I just looked at each other and shook our head. We just thought it was a long, it's going to be a long season. And I think that the beginning season, and I like to kid Suge about it because he didn't really mean it then, but we talked about football players, and he said, oh, we can make football players out of people, you know. I can make a football player out of anybody that wants to play. Well, we know you can't, you know, and nobody really thinks they can. But at that time, I guess that was part of our youthful enthusiasm. We felt like we wanted to do it so bad that our own enthusiasm and motivation would carry the team. And I think it does in a way. I don't think you can discount this.
Oh, I think motivation certainly goes a long way.
Well, surely, and I think enthusiasm that comes from people thinking they can, you know. everybody else, if you think you can, they'll join you. They think you can too. It's pretty good.
What about the day they named the stadium in Coach Jordan's honor? That had to be a big...
Well, that was a big event. But I think, looking back, one of the most interesting things that's ever happened to us, and it was just real funny, but we were in this room at the time, it was when the students all marched out when we had been selected #1 in the country. And there was a big group marching, and we could hear them coming, Neil Davis and all of them, hear them coming down the highway, and the music was playing, and they all got outside of the gate and everything. And I was just thinking about that today, when I don't think I've ever even thought about that as being such a highlight, but it was so scary too, because a group of people, you never know exactly how. I remember somebody called from the publicity department and said, now don't worry, we won't let them get all over your shrubbery and flowers at that time, as if that mattered, you know. But it was just a real fun sort of evening, but sort of scary too, in that people marching and standing outside and shouting, and, you know, there's something so scary about a crowd, I think.
Absolutely.
But it turned out to be such a pleasant evening. But back to the stadium, I know I've told you about my little grandson. We rode by and they had not put the name on the stadium. And he said, Grandmother, when are they going to put Granddaddy's name on the stadium? When he wins a ball game? And I said, yeah, by the same token, they may take it off when he loses a field. But it was just, we just have all appreciated the stadium. And I just think that this was a wonderful gesture on the part of the college.
What are you going to do at the football games now when you have a husband to sit with you? He hasn't been able to sit with you for 25 years at a ball game.
Well, I don't know, but we're not going to let him enter into the calling of the plays.
Okay.
That's the fans' prerogative. Don't you feel like it is?
Right.
And if you can't do that, he's just going to have to be quiet, because we're going to have to do that ourselves.
Sit up there and holler at the team and the
Sure.
coaches.
Have something to say about who they're playing and who they're leaving on the bench. It's just part of the fun of it.
Well, maybe you can get him to travel some with you now that he's retired.
Shug really likes to travel, and this is another thing that we haven't been able to do, and I don't think people really understand this, because they feel like, well, coaches can take some time off for vacation. But we were talking about this just this morning at breakfast, about when the alumni have given us a trip up into Canada, and we were talking about when we could go. And he says, well, all of a sudden, you don't have to plan it between alumni meetings, and you don't have to plan it between recruiting trips and things, Southeastern Conference meetings. And believe it or not, coaching has been 12 months out of the year. Mm-hmm. Because I don't remember a time other than one trip that we took to Ireland where Shug has been away from the office as long as 3 weeks. Which surprises a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Sure does. Now, stop it just a minute. I was just thinking.
You can Saturday and be close friends if you're still in football, but...
You know, a lot of people around thought Coach Jordan might retire after the Sullivan Beasley years. Mm-hmm. He went on and had more successful teams. I guess he brought the family in the discussions of retirement.
Yes, he has, and I really thought that was when he would retire. And really, Jeff and Shug had always said that they would retire together because they started together. And it was surprising to me that they did not. It, as I say, circumstances that you have no control over enter into things, and I don't think any of us realized how ill Mrs. Beard was, at this time. But Jeff now had developed an interest in a farm, which... Well, the athletic director, believe it or not, has a little bit more time than the football coach. Right. And Jeff had worked at his interest in he and Mabin both in a farm. So I think, and there are things entered into why Shug kept on a little longer. And I know, as he's told you, that if we had had a season like this past one, we'd still be coaching, because you don't like to leave on this type of
Well, I think he feels he did it the right way, though, by announcing it before the season. And there's a time, as he says, you have to just walk away.
Well, there's never a convenient time for everyone for you to retire. But I think when you hit the age of 65, if you're going to have any time none of us are going to live to be 100, that you're in good health and can enjoy doing something else. You have to make the break.
Okay. That's good.
Okay.
We're running out of time.
Fine.
Okay. Thank you. That was very... Listen, we appreciate you taking time to do it, and sorry we...
And for us at the office,
Mhm.
we really have an hourly schedule like we do during the regular school session.
I see.
And I'm always calling on y'all to help me.
Why don't you send the cameras out?
Yeah, we were within about...
Get $1 million, I just took it for granted. Almost time, I just run the leader off.
Have you got the other one?